You're listening to Planet Vero Radio. We are broadcast on iHeartMedia and also podcast on Spreaker. I've got my co-host Jeannie Rollo with me on Patient Partners with me today. She's on live stream from Indiana. We're talking about the RaDonda Vaught case, which has got pretty much national attention because, as one of the quotes in one of the stories you sent me, Jeannie said, an extremely rare case of a healthcare worker being criminally prosecuted for a medical error. And that's what we talk about all the time. How do we get these cases heard? The sad thing about this, in my opinion, is this patient died, a 75-year-old woman that had a stroke and now was having a MRI exam and was given the wrong drug by RaDonda Vaught, who is an RN at Vanderbilt University Medical Center in Nashville, Tennessee. And it was a drug to calm her. Of course, they use Versed, which is one of my pet peeves. Why go to the most extreme drug when there are other ones that may work? Of course, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a pharmacologist. I'm not, any of those things. But to me, I always err on the side of caution, and I use the least amount to start with. I don't know why it seems that they go to fentanyl and Versed as the go-to drugs. But anyway, that's another argument for another day that we've already had. We're talking about what happened to this nurse, the trial, what our thoughts are, what some of the quotes are that we've read the stories about. And this RaDonda Vaught gets sentenced on May 13th in Nashville. Quite a bit going on about it. 47 million people in one account I read that were involved, in like making comments and, that kind of thing. So, Jeannie Rollo, go ahead and run with it. You brought this to my attention.
Well, yeah. I mean, a little bit of history. RaDonda just didn't make one mistake. The DA said it was a series of 17 different things that she did not do. So it wasn't an oops moment. It was a series of 17 things that led to this woman's death. In my opinion, if you do 17 things to harm someone or cause their death, it is no longer a mistake. Now, that is my opinion. Some of the nursing organizations and unions are very upset at this because they don't think nurses should be held accountable for deaths of patients. RaDonda is about the first one I know of who's being held accountable. However, at what point do you hold people accountable? If cops for drawing the wrong gun instead of a taser can be sent to jail for killing someone, even though the jury itself acknowledged it was a pure accident, but there has to be justice. Why can't patients also get justice?
Mm-hmm.
Why do nurses not think that patients should be able to get justice?
Or
do
any
you have that
healthcare
answer,
worker?
Cindy? I don't. Right. I don't have an answer for that.
I don't have one either. And I want to say, too, also, I mentioned Versed. The patient was supposed to be given Versed, but she was not. She was given a drug that... No, what is it?
Yeah. I can't even pronounce it. It was a very lethal drug, though.
It's a drug that they use... Go ahead.
VECURONIUM.
Okay,
it's a drug that paralyzes.
Right. They use it for certain times in surgery to stop the swallowing and those kind of things. Again, we're not medical doctors, but I've seen and heard the drug before. And so the patient was given that drug and nothing was ever followed up. I mean, like, she wasn't checked that she wasn't breathing or that, that this drug was actually having that effect on her, which Versed is a calming drug. It's kind of like Valium, but more high potent, those kind of things. Supposedly, RaDonda did acknowledge that she did make a mistake. So we're all in agreement that people make mistakes. There's no problem with that. I mean, judges make mistakes, doctors, lawyers, police. I do, you do, Jeannie. We make mistakes. This is not about that. This is about, and another argument is that why then that she owned up to it and said she made a mistake. Now you're going to stop all the other people, the other nurses, for saying they made mistakes. So that's become one of the central focuses of this, when really the focus should be on the transparency of all of it and to fix these broken systems. That's what we talk about every week on this. Another quote, which I totally agree with, that is absolutely hospitals that operate with lean staffing models. Totally agree with that. I don't think there are enough nurses. Now they're saying because of all this stuff going on, there's going to be less nurses in the practice. But that's not totally the truth. The truth is they are running with lean staffing models, because the bottom line for these corporate organizations, these corporate facilities, the bottom line is the money. It's the capital.
Well, and it's not about that she just made a mistake. As I said, there were a series of 17 different mistakes. And even if you were given Versed, you are supposed to be monitored at all times by a medical staff member. So, and even if she hadn't given this woman the wrong drug, she still was not following protocol.
Right. So a quote that I took from one of these, and one of the articles I read was on NPR that you sent me. And this quote, I think it was from a different article, but regardless, the campaign to defend her should be the starting point for a powerful counter-offensive of healthcare and all workers against the subordination of human life to corporate profit. And we talk about that all the time. Well, so many corners have been cut.
Yes.
You and I talk about these forms that are generated forms that are pre-checked off. We've personally have experience with this happening in our cases and other cases we've interviewed on this podcast. We know for a fact that those things didn't happen to us as the patient that was checked off. But yet it was checked off, it's pre-generated, done, on with the next thing. It's all about the time. Get the next patient in. We need to make money for this, next. When does it stop?
Right.
And when does it become transparent? That's what I want to know. I mean, I don't want to see anyone get hurt. Certainly, it is so sad. I feel so sorry for the victim's family members. It is just incredible. I feel sorry for RaDonda in a way, too, that it's allowed to get to this. Whatever this is, whatever, if you're allowed, you're not held accountable. I don't know. It's just so sad across the board.
Well, and I might mention that the first time around, when RaDonda was brought before the nursing board, there was nothing done. It was only after all this and the second time around that they even took her license. So nursing boards are another issue, that when you go before a nursing board with something that's happened, most of the time they don't take it seriously, and the nurses get off without any reprimand or any action taken against them. And this is part of the systemic, I guess, badness of the system, is there is nothing in place to make sure that harms are recognized and taken care of, and there is prevention so that it doesn't happen again.
Well, that's what we talk about all the time on this. That's our main goal, is to have that just at the forefront of everything. I mean, what do we do as patients? We have to trust people. If we want to go to the medical community, we have to trust them. But wow, when you read these kind of cases and you see this kind of, their word, 17 egregious actions for one person.
Right.
I mean, one person. I mean, please don't tell us this isn't happening, which is what we've been told over and over and over again. We don't do this. We don't treat patients like that. Well, you do. Here's another one. How many more?
But there again, Vanderbilt, has not covered this up for RaDonda, so the nursing associations are upset that Vanderbilt did not cover this up, did not make it go away. So, I mean, that's scary too, that some of the nursing organizations do not seem to have an issue with this kind of thing happening, that they want it covered up. And that's the very thing that we talk about, that too often the harm is covered up.
And I want to make a quick point. We have like 20 seconds left, Jeannie. This happened in 2017. This was 3 years pre-COVID. And that has come into stories. Oh, the nurses are, exhausted. The nurses are this. This is 2017, before COVID was ever a blip on the radar. So I just want to make that point, because that's been used as a lot of excuses for a lot of different things. Okay, Jeannie Roller, thanks again. Thanks for bringing that to my attention. We're going to keep following it, and you've been listening to Planet Vero Radio. Please stay tuned.